Members, good morning. It's the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. There are two information papers for our meeting today. The administration provided ECI 2025-2612 for circulation among members. This document sets out the latest information on approved changes in the directorate establishment since 2026 and discusses the impact of the changes contained in the items under discussion on the directorate establishment. I remind members, if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the items under discussion today, in accordance with paragraph 83A of the Rules of Procedure, please declare the nature of the relevant interest before you speak. I also draw your attention to paragraph 84 of the Rules of Procedure in relation to the rules on voting in case of direct pecuniary interest. Agenda item number 1, EC brackets 2025-2616. Proposed creation of one time-limited multidisciplinary directorate post in the Housing Bureau. Pay scale D1. With immediate effect upon approval of the Finance Committee up to the 31st of March 2031. It will be responsible for assisting in leading and overseeing the dedicated team on subdivided units in the Housing Bureau for implementing the basic housing unit regime. We have with us Ms. Winnie Wong, Deputy Secretary for Housing Special Duties, Mr. Jason Chen, Principal Assistant Secretary for Housing Special Duties 2, and Mr. Chi, Senior Building Surveyor, Subdivided Units 2 from the Housing Bureau. Mr. Stanley Ng, Chairman of the Panel on Housing, is not a member of this subcommittee, nor is he present. I am going to briefly report on the key issues discussed by the panel based on the information prepared by the clerk to the panel. At its meeting on the 16th of March 2026, the Panel on Housing discussed the establishment proposal to create a time-limited multidisciplinary directorate post under the Housing Bureau. This post will lead and oversee the implementation of the basic housing units regime. Members supported submitting the proposal to the ESC for consideration. Members also urged the administration to properly deploy manpower within the task force on subdivided units to ensure that the proposed post can formulate effective inspections and enforcement actions to curb the illegal letting of subdivided units SDUs. Regarding the supervision of publicity and education, members highlighted the need to provide adequate support to individual owners of SDUs, the elderly ones in particular. In addition, members reminded the administration to closely monitor the progress of the BHU regime, including the number of registration applications, changes in the supply of BHUs, and rental fluctuations. They serve as KPIs for the proposed post and ensure the sustained and effective implementation of the regime. The administration addressed members' questions and concerns during the meeting. I now invite Ms. Winnie Wong, Deputy Secretary for Housing, to take us through the papers. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members. As Chairman mentioned, we propose to create one time-limited multidisciplinary directorate post in the Housing Bureau. It is a time-limited one under the Housing Bureau. Subject to the approval by the Finance Committee, it will last a total of 5 years, up to the 31st of March 2031. It will lead and oversee the dedicated team on subdivided units in the Housing Bureau in order to implement the basic housing unit regime to eradicate substandard SDUs. On the 1st of March 2026, the BHU regime came into operation. There is the principle of registration first, enforcement later. The work involved is heavy, especially when it comes to registration and application handling. In the first month of the registration period, we have received 4,500 registration applications. Work also involves enforcement, inspections, and strategic planning. The post holder will also have to handle complaints and appeals. It will also have to provide training to stakeholders, such as housing estate agents. This post holder will also have to be responsible for public education and publicity. We are of the view that this post holder needs to have a lot of experience in public administration to take forward the work mentioned. We have cautiously reviewed the establishment of the Housing Department and the Housing Bureau. We have also taken into account the responsibilities of this post. We believe this post will meet the needs in the short-medium term. That's why before the end of this post, 5 years later, we can review the workload before we will consider whether we need to retain this post. Having considered the implementation of the BHU regime, which will be taken forward in a phased manner, all the posts under this are time limited. The Housing Bureau will have regard to the actual circumstances and review our manpower needs. The aim is to ensure the effective implementation of the new regime. On the 16th of March in 2026, we already consulted the panel on housing about this proposal. Members supported our proposal. We urge the ESC to support our establishment proposal. My colleagues and I are happy to take questions from members. Thank you, Deputy Secretary. A total of 8 members are lining up to speak. They are Ms. Carmen Kan, Mr. Brave Chan, Mr. Lee Kwong Yu, Mr. Michael Ngai, Mr. Wu Yingpeng, Alvin Lee, Ms. Grace Chan, Dr. Junius Ho, and Mr. Chan Pok Chi. 4 minutes each, questions and answers included. Ms. Carmen Kan, please. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman. Indeed, the Housing Bureau needs to be responsible for registration, vetting, certification, and so on. This work is very heavy. This isn't a factor that the Housing Bureau has taken into account when it was first established, so I in principle support this proposal. I have 2 questions. 1. When the Finance Committee approved the project last year, there was a role that is the Principal Assistant Secretary of the Housing Bureau pitched at D2 level. This civil servant will take the post until the 31st of March 2028. For this post, it will run until the 31st of March 2031. So it seems that this higher position has even longer term. So I'd like to know the details. In paragraph 9 of the papers, as at last week, only 1 application was received in relation to certification. Just now, the Deputy Secretary mentioned that there were a total of 4,500 applications. This will be more of a backloaded situation. Towards the end of the period, we are going to see an increase in the number of certification applications. So how are you going to handle the situation? It seems that there is insufficient manpower. Thank you. Questions on 2 fronts? DS, please. Thank you, Ms. Kan, for your questions. Last year, we applied to create a D2 post for 3 years, and it will run until the 31st of March 2028. However, for this D1 post, it will run until the 31st of March 2031 for 5 years. Last year, when we applied to create the D2 post, the post holder needed to support the work of the dedicated team on SDUs. The post holder is responsible for implementing the policy and setting out law. In 2025, the legislation was enacted. Now we are going to implement it. Therefore, we need an administrative officer D2 to take forward the relevant work. And this post holder will finish his or her work on the 31st of March 2028. At that time, do we still need to conduct reviews on a policy level? We're going to conduct reviews in a timely manner. Today, we're going to apply for the creation of a post of D1 level. He or she can be either a chief building surveyor or building services engineer or architect. This post holder will be responsible for the actual implementation of the regime. In other words, this post holder needs to go over the application, certification, applications. For this post holder at the D1 level, he or she will report to the higher up at the D2 level. In 2028, we're going to review the overall establishment of the Housing Bureau. We will also review the overall work portfolios of different post holders. Then we'll decide whether this post holder is needed, and if need be, we are going to consult members in due course on the number of application and recognition. I have the latest figures. As I said yesterday, the figure has increased to 4,000 or so, involving 1,000 or so SDUs. Is this a front-loaded approach? Well, we will have to monitor the situation. There are two main applications, one for registration, 110,000 SDUs. They need to register within this year. That's why we'll have to keep a close tab on the situation. Regarding recognition, this will happen on an ongoing basis. An SDU will have 5 years to operate, so this will be an ongoing task. This D1 post holder plays a very important role in striking a balance between these two aspects: publicity, promotion, and so on. There will be timely promotion efforts, and this post holder will acquire priority in this regard. Thank you. Ms. Kan? Well, regarding my first question, I mean the higher up term will end in 2028, whereas this D1 post will end in 2031. What about this question? What about the reporting mechanism? The D2 post will expire or lapse in 2028. We will see whether we need to extend that post. And probably within the Housing Bureau, there are other D2 post holders, and there may be room for that colleague to oversee this team. We'll have to wait until 2028 when we conduct and review in order to make the best arrangements. For this D1 post holder, he or she will have a D2 higher up to oversee his or her work. However, we'll have to wait until 2028 before we know whether there will be another post holder or another D2 colleague to oversee the work of this D1 post holder. Next member, Mr. Brave Chan. Thank you. Thank you, DS, for her very detailed reply. Overall, this is worth our support. In the first 2 years, not to speak of 5 years, in the first 2 years, the work is going to be heavy. Page 11 of the information paper. In 2023, 9,835, it's dropped to 9,687. Despite a decrease in manpower, workload has actually become heavy. We need to bid farewell to SDUs, therefore the work is heavy. There are, however, just 12 professional-grade colleagues. In the first 2 years, there are bound to be more applications. Do we have sufficient manpower to handle the situation? Is it possible to solicit the help of other units to pitch in the first 2 years, so when things go on the right track, then things will become easier? All right. Yes, about support staff. DS, please. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Brave Chan, for your questions. Let me talk about the pace at which the BHU regime will be implemented. Starting from the 1st of March 2026, it was the start of the registration period. We encourage the owners of the 110,000 STU owners to register. After registration, they will enjoy a grace period of 36 months up till 2030. Owners can discuss with tenants how to handle the tenancy and how the remedial works will be carried out. From 2026 to 2027, we're going to spend most efforts on registration. We want to make it simple. We don't want owners to feel that it's complicated to do so. By being simple, it means that owners only need to fill out a very simple form. It's completely free. We just check the information. As long as it's correct, we will approve the application. We also need to work on recognition applications. It might not be the highlight of our work in the first year. As for recognition applications, we will adopt a report of professionals. The professionals will first of all check whether the status quo of the subdivided units meet the requirements. As long as there is a signature on the report, then we trust that the report is effective. Then the dedicated team will carry out surprise checks. We're not going to scrutinize every report. We trust professionals. That's why, as for recognition applications, it's not on the heavy side, but we will also have regard to the actual situation. After all, this is a new regime. If we need extra manpower, of course, the Housing Bureau or the Housing Department chief will help us monitor the situation. At the end of the day, this is a very important policy. So members, rest assured, we're going to monitor our manpower as we take forward the regime. The work nature varies as well, so we'll have regard to the actual situation and make arrangements. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Lee Kwang-yu. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. In accordance with paragraphs 3 and 9 of the paper, currently there are about 110,000 SDUs. And then as of 5 p.m. on the 25th of March, 840 applications have been received, involving 3,400 SDUs, where we need to carry out enforcement and explanation work, and therefore I know we need someone to coordinate the work. It will be time limited to lead the dedicated team. You have my support. Well, in relation to paragraph 10 of the paper, the Bureau will work through 6 district service teams to assist the affected households to look for relocation properties in the private market. So my question is, as of now, for the 60 STs, how many cases have been received, and how successful have they been in relation to relocating the tenants? Would you consider setting out KPIs for the DSTs so as to make sure that they are efficient and effective? Thank you. So the caseload. Well, for the 6 district service teams, well, in fact, they weren't set up just this year. Well, in fact, in the year 2022, at that time, in relation to the bill on the BHU, once it was passed, the 6 district service teams were mainly responsible for publicity work. Now that we have got the BHU regime in place, the nature of the work has been changed a bit. That is, they have to drive the program. Taking care of the tenants will be important. Perhaps I can share some figures with you. In the 2024-25 financial year, for the 6 DSTs, they have handed out over 280,000 publicity materials. For this year, 245,000 leaflets. For visits to the tenants, we set KPIs for them, no less than 1,000 per year. In fact, they have exceeded that figure. In 2024-25, 1,600, and this year, 1,580. Well, probably you have read in the papers that in Shamshipo there was a particular building in which the owner would like the tenants to move out. And we sent the DST there, and then we knock on the doors of all the 130 plus households. Currently, the majority of them have got relocation plans. Some went to the transition housing, the others went to another place. So we can see that they are responsible for publicity, promotion work. They have publicity stands outdoors, and they move very swiftly. So in relation to Yutwa House, they have been sort of working very efficiently and effectively. We expect something similar to happen in future. All the 6 DSTs are ready. They stand ready to move in whenever something like that happens. At the same time, the DSTs must gather intelligence. So at the district level, they have to go through the buildings thoroughly so as to check if some owners are about to carry out the renovation work, and therefore the tenants have to move out. So we'll be watching it, and we'll try to see which area of their work will have to be focused. And members, we welcome information from you if you receive news of any sort. So in relation to successful relocation, this is not one of the KPIs. Well, in relation to that particular case, we do have a number of tenants who have successfully moved into transitional housing with their assistance, but I'm afraid we cannot keep an overall figure. All right, thank you. Next, Mr. Michael I. Thank you, Chair. For the BHU regime, on the first day it came into operation, together with the bureau chief, we went to the districts. I know it involved a lot of front-loaded workload. I agree that there should be a dedicated post holder to take care of this. The housing, the buildings department, etc., are responsible for the work. Interdepartmental collaboration, cooperation will be important. When it comes to law enforcement, will he or she be empowered to take care of interdepartmental action? Yes, please. In relation to the question, let me talk about the history. In the year 2023, under the leadership of the Deputy Financial Secretary, we set up a working group which is still in existence. Other than having someone from the HB, we have also got input from the Development Bureau as well as the Home and Youth Affairs Bureau. So that working group is overseeing our work. As to the newly created post holder, well, he or she will mainly be leading the dedicated team on subdivided units, which will implement the basic housing unit regime. Under the BHU bill or ordinance, we say that the SDUs must meet the minimum standards of living conditions, and there are 8 aspects of them. So this colleague will make sure that the applications and the applications for registration and recognition are received and processed. If we need departmental help from, say, the BD or the FSD, there is an internal standing mechanism to cover the internal communication and collaboration. For this post holder, he will take care of the basic housing unit regime, and in particular, application and recognition. But then the ordinance says that upon receiving an application for recognition, even if that unit meets the minimum standards of living conditions, if we believe that there is a hazard in relation to personal safety, then we will take up the matter with the buildings department, or if we identify a fire hazard, we'll talk to the FSD. So internally, we can rely on the standing mechanism to deal with them. Thank you. Thank you. Next, Mr. Wu Yingpeng. Thank you, Chair. Well, since taking office, this term of the government is resolved to take to tackle the long-standing big and difficult issue of the substandard divided units. Of course, this involves many stakeholders and many departments and bureaus. I believe that this post holder can rely on his professionalism and experience to deal with the matter. So I'm in support of the creation of this post. I would also like to comment on one point. While I was on the duty roster, together with Junius Ho, Stanley Ng, and Lemon Kwong, we met a concern group on SDUs. We have been told that in launching the BHU regime, some tenants were facing eviction. Some owners resorted to very extreme methods like suspending the water supply as well as the power supply or the lift service. And then some tenants lack legal knowledge and they can't get legal service, they can't pay for legal service. So we have to be targeted in relation to the provision of a service. Would you like to take care of that? Thank you. Again, it's about providing support to the SDU tenants. Thank you, Chair. For this new post holder, he or she will be a directorate grade officer. So a main part of his or her work will be the implementation of the regime. For individual owners who, on the excuse of meeting the requirements of the BHU regime, force the tenants to be evicted, and when we come across such cases, this directorate grade officer will ask the district service team to take care of that case. Now, members said that he has already come across forceful eviction of tenants by owners. We have already sort of talked to the relevant organizations to see whether it is true. Well, it is said that there are hundreds of them, but I think it is sort of cases that he heard about. The majority of them have been resolved. Well, under the BHU regime, there are clear provisions to say that owners cannot threaten the tenants by suspending power supply or water supply. Such threatening moves will be regarded as criminal. If you do come across such cases, please talk to us, and we can also refer the case to the Rating and Valuation Department. For the application for TH and light public housing, well, they are very important support measures on our part. It's easy to apply for DH. In the year 2023, we already created a consolidated application platform. If tenants have difficulties in applying for TH, please approach the DSTs and they can offer help. So far, we haven't encountered any difficulties in relation to application for legal reasons. As to the tenancy arrangements between owners and tenants, well, probably we have to check how we can tackle each and every case. Of course, we know that tenants don't need to worry. It is because we have got a 4-year grace period, and owners, in fact, has got sufficient time to talk about the tenancy agreements with the tenants. Tenants are entitled to the rights and interests therein, and then tenants could not be evicted by the landlords unreasonably. Mr. Elvin Lee. Thank you, Chair. I support the proposal. I think we need such posts. I think it is good that we can resolve the SDU problem. I would like to look at paragraph 6, which says that in March 2027, the HB will adopt a pragmatic, people-oriented, and risk-based approach when taking enforcement actions in a reasonable, compassionate, and orderly manner against illegal letting of SDUs with no registration, no recognition, so as to ensure that they will not be displaced. This post holder will also take care of coming up with guidelines for enforcement and prosecution. what is meant by the risk-based approach? Does it mean that for SDUs, some of them will be given priority when it comes to enforcement, say those with fire hazards, those which have been the subject matter of complaints? So I want to know, when you set out the enforcement priorities, what are the factors that you will take into account? And what about the tenants? Will they be properly rehoused so that they won't be displaced and they won't be unduly affected? Thank you.
In the ESC meeting, the questions member asked should focus on establishment proposals. I understand that we may touch on policy discussions, so perhaps the DS can let us know how this post holder will support the functions of enforcement actions. Probably the DS can take this perspective. All right. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Lee. We created a post at D2 level responsible for policy and legislation. Today we're applying to create a D1 post, a time-limited multidisciplinary one. This post holder is a professional. He or she will help the dedicated team to outline the strategic directions. Just now we refer to overall principles, say risk-based, pragmatic. These are our overarching principles. The government has conducted different studies, and we know very well which areas have more SDUs. This year, we focused on registration, so after we have information on the distribution of SDUs across Hong Kong, we will also have information about years. Will that impact on enforcement priority? This new post holder will help us plan our enforcement actions. And we don't allow any displacement of residents when the regime is in force. That's why, when it comes to enforcement actions, we need to consider the safety of the tenants of SDUs. We need to help these residents to secure a BHU or a transitional housing unit. From enforcement action to rehousing arrangements, this post holder will assist the dedicated team. In other words, this post holder will be responsible for all elements of the regime, correct? Ms. Grace Chan, thank you. The DS gave very detailed and clear explanations. I go along with the BHU regime. I also agree that it is necessary to create this post, which is time limited. You have already given us some explanations, but one point I'd like to ask about is support. This is an establishment proposal, and there are a total of 6 district service teams. Is it within the establishment, or is it a flexible one? Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Grace Chan. Regarding the 6 district service teams, they are engaged by the government. There was an open tender through which we engaged these 6 district teams. A new contract has started, and there are basic requirements: 1 full-time project officer and 2 to 3 project assistants. Usually they take on social welfare workers. These are our basic requirements. In addition to full-time members, there may be volunteers to help. So overall, these are within the contract of the 6 district service teams. Next member, Dr. Junius Ho. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask DS in enclosure 3. Chief Officer Subdivided Units. There are a total of 15 members overseen by this Chief Officer. Are they already working at their workstations, and you are now just engaging one Chief Officer to oversee the work of these 15 members? And this Chief Officer will support the Principal Assistant Secretary. As Ms. Carmen Khan said, this PAS position will lapse in 2028. And the DS also oversees first-hand residential properties, and I believe that is you. For the 15 members under the Chief Officer's SDUs, are they already working in the office? Thank you. According to enclosure 3, there are 2 lines extending from Chief Officer, one Registration and Recognition Unit, the other Enforcement and Prosecution Unit, 15 and 3, totaling 18. In paragraph 18 of the papers, we already said that some positions had already started working. About 8 posts are already available. As for the remaining positions, they will be created, and in fact they have been created today on the 1st of April 2026. These members are already in the workstation, so why do we still need a D1 post Chief Officer SDUs? Well, as I mentioned, we already have a team of members, and we need a leader. We need a leader, and we need a leader from the professional grade. And above him or her, an AO post holder oversees the work in this aspect, and this post will lapse in 2028. We need a professional grade colleague at D1 level to monitor this team of 18 members. Dr. Ho? In other words, in addition to this post, we have 18 post holders ready, and another 10 members have already started their work from today. Is that correct? Yes. The D2 post will lapse in 2028. It is not true that there is no leader. There is already a leader whose post will lapse in 2028, but then you are still adding a post below the PAS. That is a D1 level, and a D1 post will lapse in 2030 or 2031. 2 years or 3 years later, when the post holder comes to LegCo and asks for extension, of course, it will be approved. Logically, I agreed with Ms. Khan. The PAS post would definitely be extended. So from our perspective of the ESC, we are in a passive position. Of course, the information is provided by you. When we take a look at the chart, Chairman, well, yes, go on, please. Director of Housing, 3 divisions. And according to paragraph 19 of the papers, there is insufficient manpower, despite the fact that you have considered making internal arrangements. Within the Bureau, there isn't sufficient manpower, so can you second members from other bureaus? DS, thank you. We have a D2 post holder an administrative officer. When we created this post, we needed an officer to formulate policies to eradicate substandard SDUs. Then, we needed to work on a BHU regime. That's why we consider it more appropriate for an AO to assume this post, and this post will lapse in 2028. When the time comes, we will review whether we still need this post, including a review of the policies. There are new circumstances every now and then. When there is new legislation, then we may need to extend this D2 post. Having said that, in 2028, if the BHU regime is all about registration, recognition, about the pragmatic side, then if the D1 post can already handle these work, then we no longer need the D2 post. Dr. Ho, well, can you second officers from other bureaus? The government needs to maintain a zero growth policy. Could you please answer my question? If there is insufficient manpower within your bureau, can you second officers from other bureaus? Dr. Ho? Well, Dr. Ho's question is very clear. Probably the DS can answer this question. Thank you. For the 18 colleagues, they are time-limited positions. When their positions lapse, then we'll see if we still need to extend their posts. If not, their work could be absorbed by existing colleagues. This is possible. After all, there are 110,000 SDUs in Hong Kong. Dr. Ho, well, we need to observe rules. As you have already overrun, I still allowed you to speak. Your questions and views are already very clear, and DS wanted to continue to answer you. I believe the DS understands your question. I need to observe. I need to keep the meeting running. Thank you. We will have regard to the circumstances to decide whether we need to extend the posts. It is possible that we may need to extend the posts, but another possibility that the work could be absorbed by officers under the Housing Bureau or the Housing Department. We will review the situation in due course. Next member, Mr. Champok Chi. Thank you. The post holder to be created and the 18 non-directorate posts will provide important support to the BHU regime. At present, well, you need to ensure that the policies are cost-effective enough. You need to keep a close watch on cost control and KPI. There are a total of 18 members under this team, and we need to first of all handle registration well. There are 110,000 SDUs in Hong Kong. We are working on publicity. Just in the first month, we received 4,000 or so SDU registration applications. Out of a total of 110,000, it accounts for about 4%. We'll have to continue to strengthen our work so that SDU tenants and landlords know that the BHU regime is in force. This will prompt SDU owners to register. This is actually a very clear goal of the dedicated team. Regarding registration applications, we have an internal timeline. That is, after receiving all documents, within 15 days, we need to approve the application. In addition to informing SDU landlords we need to upload the relevant information to the thematic website of SDU. There is a timeline, and we will closely monitor whether the dedicated team can handle all applications. Another important indicator is handling telephone inquiries and complaints. We are receiving hundreds of such every day. So regarding how we can effectively handle telephone complaints and inquiries, this is actually a clear goal of the dedicated team as well.
Before we have the discussion continued, 3 members would like to ask questions for the first time, and then Mr. Jonas Ho would have a second bite. So let me remind members who are within the LC complex, if you do want to speak, please join us. After we've dealt with all the speakers on the list, we will move on to the voting phase. Mr. Yu Pak Leung. Well, thank you, Chair. It is indeed a hard-tall order to resolve the subdivided units problem. We have entered a new phase. As the DS has said, it is time for application and recognition. Later on, we'll focus on law enforcement. Yes, I do know that your workload is heavy and a lot of technical aspects are involved. We do need somebody who have the post pitch at D1 level. I can appreciate the consideration. Let me look at the dedicated team and let's look at the organization chart. Carmen and Junius shared my concern. In relation to the chief officer, he will oversee the registration and recognition unit as well as the enforcement and prosecution unit. For the other 2 units, policy and administration, they are smaller in scale and they've only got 3 officers. I know that the DS tried to explain that the AO at the D2 level is holding a 3-year time-limited post. My question is, when that post duration comes to an end, are you quite sure that there's no need for it anymore? Because currently you would be focusing law enforcement and the aftermath. For the D2 post holder, who will have a duration of 3 years, I think the DS answered that many times. So please be brief. For the D2 post, the post will last until 2028. Post 2028, whether it should be extended or whether other officers should take over the work. At this particular moment, I can't be sure. The Big U regime is something totally new to us. When it comes to enforcement and implementation, we may need adjustments and adaptation. So we need an AO to take care of that. Members don't need to worry. The administration will be very cautious in making sure that the proposal to extend a time-limited post will be justified. Next, Mr. Chen Cho Kwong. When we look at the establishment proposals, we try to see whether the post is needed. Now, for the new post to be created, who currently is taking care of the work? Is it because usually we'll try to look at it in this way? An incumbent officer has just got too much on his plate or he can't deal with it effectively, so we need someone to come in relation to a newly created post. If you always create new posts when you have new policies, does it mean that, say for example, you need 3 more teams to deal with 3 more policies? What about the original design of the organizational chart of the Housing Bureau? Do you always need new posts, additional posts? So please explain to us as to why you can justify this proposal. Otherwise, we cannot appreciate the importance of having to approve the proposal. DS. Well, to answer Mr. Chen's question directly, for this new post, as to whether somebody is already doing this, no one. It's impossible. For the BHU regime, well, it was only introduced on the 1st of March this year. In the year 2023, the CE in his policy address talked about our determination to tackle the SDU problem. A working group was set up in 2023. In 2024, there was consultation and research. A decision was made to pass a piece of legislation. Last year, we passed the ordinance. And so we're talking about something totally new to us. For the D1 post holder, she will take care of this new aspect. As to the member's question as to whether we'll always create new posts when we tackle something new, of course not. Well, if you look at the chart, I am taking care of the first-hand residential properties as well. When I came to the post in the beginning, I had a particular portfolio, but then we had the light public housing, and now we have got the BHU, so I'm taking care of such as well. Of course, I play the role of supervision at the policy level. Now, for the BHU, there will be application and recognition processes. It's about practical work. We need more posts, but we have been exercising self-restraint, and the posts are going to be time-limited. We will carry out a review in time. Sometimes there may be new areas of work that were not expected in the past. And of course, on the other hand, we can also rely on AI or technology so that we can cut down on our demand for manpower. So we'll be very cautious to check whether the post has to be created. If I may remind members and the public officers, when we speak, you address the chairman, and then the chairman will approve your question, and then the public officer will give a reply. Please do not have a direct conversation between a member and a public officer. That's not in line with our rules of procedures. Next, Mr. Vincent Chang. I'm in support of this post. For years, I've been concerned about SDUs. I believe that this move will be critical for the housing of the grassroots, be it transitional housing, SDUs, etc. I think the BHU regime is a very complicated policy. We have 110,000 SDUs involving 200,000 grassroots tenants. So at the policy level, we must have the right support. We must have sufficient support. On my part, I'm more worried about whether you have got sufficient manpower. For subdivided unit tenants, they have no choice but stay there for a particular reason. So we have to support the BHU regime. Let me come to my 3 points. First of all, the registration system is already in place. Please look at the case of tenancy control or rent control for SDUs. Yes, for the tenancy registration has been in place for quite a few years. So make sure that even though it is going to be voluntary, within the year time that you give them, there will be as many as possible. SDU owners will be worried about one thing, that is money to be spent on alteration and renovation. I know you're going to have model units or templates. When will it be made available? And other than coming up with demonstration models, are there other special ways to help them? There may be an elderly person operating a few simple SDUs. There may be financial pressure on them. And then hundreds of telephone calls have been received. you must expect more to come because tenants aren't quite sure about the safeguards that they are entitled to. They may face eviction. Well, in fact, can you not have the BHU regime and the rent control for SDUs being put together when you explain the assistance given to them? So again, Mr. Zhang is concerned about the support given to the tenants. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Zhang, for his questions. First of all, for the registration, how are we going to encourage more owners to get registered? For the D1 post holder, once the post has been filled, he will be overseeing the units under him. For the registration unit, we're watching the daily figures. What we've seen is that many owners have approached us for registration or for inquiries. We see a need to provide more support. Say, for example, we may have to interview them to explain the matter to them, answer telephone calls, and entertaining online inquiries. So the post holder will be overseeing the developments. Say, for example, if there is a need to boost a particular area in the registration process, then he will do so. For the BHU regime, for the registration of SDUs, I think it is a bit different from the rent control for SDUs. For the SDU owner, once registered, there will be a 36-month grace period. It is a very attractive incentive to get registered. If not, come next year, 2027, he runs the risk of being made a subject matter of law enforcement. Please be brief. Well, as to rent control and support given to the SDU tenants, it will be the focus of our work. For demonstration models, with your support, and we can create this post, then this officer will try to come up with the demonstration units in a month or two. And then for the support to be given, that will be the work of the 6 district service teams. Thank you. Next, Mr. Bill Tang. Thank you, Chair. I will be addressing you when I speak. Well, of course, we appreciate that we are all very concerned about the efficiency of our civil servants. And, well, to be frank, we don't want posts to be created in an unjustifiable manner. SDUs are a huge problem. If we don't handle it properly, there may be serious social consequences. 110,000 SDUs. The government says that 70% can meet the requirements. In other words, there will be 70,000 SDUs which can meet the requirements of the BHUs. Are they really in line with the requirements post Wang Fuk Court fire? I think we believe that we need to exercise greater care in relation to signatures given by specified professionals. If the figure is not 70,000 but 10,000 recognizable SDUs, then it means that there will be many more people living in non-compliant SDUs. What will happen? We mustn't take it lightly. And then 1,900 households from Wang Fuk Court will have to be rehoused. And I hope the government would cover Wang Chi house as well. So the housing department will be the main department taking care of the rehousing arrangements. I think the DS won't talk too much about the case of Wang Fuk Court, but then it means that concurrently you have to deal with the rehousing of Wang Fuk Court tenants, and it is a heavy claim on your time and efforts, and it will last for a few years. I highly support your proposal to create the post, but I come to my question now. How can the Housing Bureau assure us that now even SDUs are to be recognized by professionals? Can you assure us that for each and every unit, it will be rechecked by a government official? After what happened, I don't think we can still accept the long-standing culture that will rely on the signature of a specified professional. Do you have the policy to make sure that you will check each and every SDU to make sure that they are really compliant?
RDS. Thank you, Chairman. The design of the BHU regime is such that we ask professionals to conduct an audit and prepare an audit report. We will then review the report. The position holder of this new post will conduct surprise checks. For instance, after receiving 100 applications, will we conduct surprise checks or random checks? We may even conduct door-to-door checks, and this is exactly within the remit of the new position holder. In addition to the BHU regimes, there are other policies and regulations responsible for the safety of SDUs, and they will continue to be effective and enforced. When it comes to fire hazards, building hazards, these will continue to be within the remit of the respective policy bureaus, whereas this dedicated team under the Housing Bureau will scrutinize the applications. We will also conduct random checks on audit reports, and this post holder will be responsible for conducting random checks. Thank you. For meeting management, after Ms. Elizabeth Quad speaks, I will draw a line. 17 members will have spoken on this item, so I'm going to draw a line after Ms. Quad speaks. Ms. Quad, please. Thank you, Chairman. I speak in support of this establishment proposal as well. The Housing Bureau of this term is very proactive and competent. It addresses housing issues like a lack of housing in Hong Kong. According to your document, I can see that the Housing Bureau hasn't added any manpower. By contrast, it has seen a decrease in manpower. There are different housing policies such as transitional housing, BHU, and so on. There is indeed a wide policy portfolio. It is next to impossible to second other members or to redeploy internal officers to take up this post. What I'm concerned with is whether you have sufficient manpower. Just now you already explained there may not be a heavy workload in the registration period, but afterwards you need to make sure the registered SDUs meet the requirements, and indeed this work is heavy. You still have a lot of publicity work to do. Just now you talked about the 36-month grace period. Therefore, this period may not be the busiest. So can you let us know what are you going to do within this 36-month period so that for the registered SDUs they will meet the standards and requirements. At the same time, you shouldn't turn away those who are going to register. Thank you. Chairman, I draw a line right here. Thank you. DS. The design of the BHU regime is that in the first year, we focus on registrations. Registration is rather straightforward, so for internal handling of registration, we don't need as much manpower. However, the BHU regime is taken forward in a phased and orderly manner. There are 110,000 SDUs. We have conducted surveys on 70,000 or so. We asked an independent water meters or fire extinguishers to be put in place in these buildings. After a report is signed and submitted to us, then our team checks all the documents to see whether they are all ready. We take a risk-based approach. And then we conduct random checks. Do we need to conduct a more in-depth random checks or inspection? We don't require 70,000 SDUs which need remedial works to submit applications in one go. For the remaining 30,000 units or so, their owners may choose to handle the registration or remedial works at a later stage. For instance, we require 8 square meters. The SDU owners can only work on this after all the tenants have left or vacated the unit. For these more complicated cases, they will appear towards the end of the period. In other words, in the first year, registration is rather straightforward. Afterwards, there will be recognition and more complicated cases popping up. These cases will only appear in the second or the third year, and afterwards we're going to see more complicated cases. Thank you. Mr. Nick Chan. The Liberal Party makes visits to SDU tenants from time to time. They are the most needed. Well, I mean, they need our care the most. I support the BHU regime, and I have 2 points to make. 1. I support this establishment proposal, which is a time-limited one. 2. I'm concerned with the grace period of 48 months. Of course, this post holder will be underpinned by other officers, but what KPIs does this post holder have within the 48-month period? Thank you. It's about the KPI mechanism and manpower support. DS, thank you. In my answers to other members' questions, this D1 post holder is responsible for leading and overseeing the dedicated team. This post holder is underpinned by 18 colleagues. Do we have sufficient manpower according to our assessment now? It is. However, upon the rollout of the regime, we need to review the situation. If need be, we will make manpower arrangements or deployment to cater for the needs. As for KPIs, which I already mentioned, we aim to handle registration well in the first year, so we want SDUs to register within the first year. There is no cost. Registration is free. Owners only need to fill out a very simple form. So in the first year, this post holder needs to handle registration, and at the same time, the post holder also needs to formulate directions on inspections and random checks. So we will have to see whether there are any hiccups in the implementation of the regime, and then we can tell whether the post holder has done a good job. Mr. Stephen Ho, many members asked about the KPIs or the value of this post holder. There are hundreds of thousands of SDUs in Hong Kong, and of course, there are bound to be a lot of different problems cutting across different policy bureaus. That's why I support the creation of this time-limited multidisciplinary directorate post. You may apply for extension, and in the second year, the post holder will need to formulate random check directions, and we don't know how many SDUs will be affected or how many BHUs will be affected, subject to the process of the progress of urban renewal. You have to monitor whether you still need this post. If there is a standing mechanism, does this post holder scrutinize the building plans. Well, I'd like to know whether a few years later, are you coming back to the electrical to apply for a permanent position when you realize that you need more manpower to handle work in another area? Is it possible that this time-limited post will be made permanent? Thank you. DS. The BHU is indeed a standing regular mechanism. This is a fact. Whenever the government applies to create a post, we consider whether it is the best and the most appropriate arrangement at that time. We are applying for this 5-year time-limited post because this regime is a brand new one. Upon the rollout of the regime, do we need to make any adjustments, as we don't rule out the possibility that we need to make adjustments to the regime or the legislation. So will we apply to extend this post or to make it permanent? It is difficult for us to say so, but in fact, the BHU regime is a standing one, is a regular one. Regarding whether we will extend it, it will depend on whether we can make internal deployments within the Housing Bureau. There are different possibilities. For this new post holder, he or she is going to be responsible for a standing regular mechanism. If the regime isn't very complicated, is it possible that other directorate posts can absorb this post? Probably we don't really need a directorate post holder to be responsible for this position. I hope that we can make prudent use of public money. Thank you. Dr. Junius Ho, round 2, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'm actually against the creation of this post. The PAS for Housing Special Duties, 3 years, and for this post, D1, for 5 years. They don't tally. In 2028, the post of the PAS will be reviewed by us, so it is impossible for us to approve this post to lapse only after 2031. It should be approved until 2028. The government is poor, and this post holder involves a staff cost of $2.8 million per year. When you apply to create this new post, can you reduce another post? Well, I'm not objecting to this post, but can you remove another post? I don't believe that you cannot remove even one single post in another team. You need to complete all the registration applications within the first year, and you already handle as much as 3% to 4% within the first 24 days, and the curve will only become steeper. Three structural engineers, 4 surveyors. They're going to report to the D2 post, and you are now even going to add a D1 post here. Even within a team of a dozen members, you cannot ensure sufficient coordination. Well, I don't think you really need one more officer. I'm not against this proposal because of the nature of the post, but I am considering the manpower within the team. DS, do you have any response? I thank member for his views. Every time we create a post, we consider whether we really need it. Earlier on, we applied to create a post of at D2 level because we needed someone to be responsible for legislation, and this post will lapse after 2028. At present, we are talking about the implementation of the regime. Fire hazards, building hazards, we need professionals to be responsible for this. And we will have regard to our workload and make arrangements as appropriate. We apply to create new posts very cautiously. Before we put this item to a vote, quite many members have expressed concerns over the higher up, that is the D2 level. The D2 level position, which will lapse in 2028. This is a concern of members. Do we have sufficient manpower to support SDU tenants? These are the concerns of members. So DS, please pay attention to these aspects.
If members haven't got other questions, I will put the matter to the vote. For members who are in support of paper EC 2025-2026-16 and its proposal, yes, Mr. Gary Chen. Can I claim a division? Yes, certainly. So the bell will ring for 5 minutes. The clerk will make arrangements for ringing the division bell for 5 minutes.
對人工傾偈，了解下。
唔知得唔得咧？啲稍後。
稍後。
Please proceed to vote. First of all, please press the button to indicate your presence, and then please vote. Members, please check your vote. And now voting comes to an end. The results are to be displayed. Members who are present, 33, 31 for, 1 against, no abstention. I declare that the proposal has been carried. Well, in relation to whether we would advise the Finance Committee to have a further discussion of paper EC 2025-2616, in relation to whether the FC should have a further discussion of this topic in accordance with the Establishment Subcommittee Procedure, paragraph 48, I put the following question to you. This subcommittee advises the Finance Committee of a further discussion of the proposal endorsed by this subcommittee in paper EC 2025-2616. I need to remind you that if the question is carried, it means that this subcommittee advises the FC to further discussion. If it is negative, then it means that we do not propose to the FC to have a further discussion. I put the matter to the vote. Members who are in support, please show your hands. Those who are against, show your hands, please. All right, thank you. I believe that members who voted, the majority of you are in the majority of you oppose this proposal. So the subcommittee does not advise the FC to have a further discussion of paper EC 2025-2616. Thank you. Let's move on to the following paper. EC 2025-2615. The proposal is to make permanent one-time limited directorate post in the Fire Services Department to strengthen the supervision, direction, and support to the operation in the new territories South Command with effect from 2026 April 23rd, or upon approval of the FC. On the 10th of February 2026, the administration consulted the security panel of the LegCo Well, in fact, Mr. Peter Shiu, chairman of the security panel, is not a member of the ESC and he is not present. So in accordance with the information prepared by the clerk to the panel, I will tell you about the main points of the discussion. On the 10th of February 2026, the security panel had a discussion of this ESC proposal. Generally speaking, members were in support. They spoke on the policies as well as the operational matters. In concrete terms, members are concerned as to how this proposal can enhance the capability of New Territory Self-Command deal with the fire prevention and emergency contingency of the important infrastructural facilities. They are also concerned about cross-boundary emergency rescue operation. Members are concerned about the KPIs and whether making it permanent will have a bearing on the finance of the administration, the FSD operation, and the promotion of the fire services department. Members were also concerned about the use of unmanned aviation devices as well as the Internet of Things, among other technologies. Were concerned about the efficiency and cost effectiveness of this case. The administration replied to the questions made, and members do not object to the referral of this paper to the ESC. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Michael Check, Under Secretary for Security. Thank you, Chair. We would like to make permanent this time-limited 5-year post, which lasted for 5 years, so as to make sure that we can continue with the supervision, direction, and management. The post was last created in 2021. In the past, we had one single chief fire officer taking care of NT-South and NT-North commands. And for the past 3 years, we have been convinced that there is a need to make it permanent. First of all, the workload and the establishment are huge. For the past few years, 94,000 incidents were dealt with by the two commands, 45% of the total of Hong Kong. And then over 70% of the newly created posts go to the two commands. In fact, they are the same as the total of Hong Kong Island and Kowloon. So we need two different chief fire officers to take care of the two commands. And also, the fire risk is indeed very challenging. NT-South covers important infrastructural projects like the Hong Kong IA, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, among many others. When there is an incident, we need high-level command. Moreover, for the new territories, we need many more help in relation to mountain rescue, and then flooding incidents that are serious are usually found in the new territories. So we need someone at the directorate grade. And then for the long-term planning and strategy, the post holder is also responsible for the Guangdong Hong Kong Macau Emergency Management Cooperation. The post holder will also take care of the unmanned aircraft systems in firefighting and rescue operations. Fire safety governance is also part of his job. We have already reviewed the existing establishment arrangements. It is impossible to rely on the original design. You are concerned about the financial arrangements. This is not a newly created post, and in fact, when we first come here for application, we try to make it permanent. We are merely turning a time-limited post into a permanent post. If this is not approved, it will go back to what we had a few years ago. It is a step backwards. The security panel on the 10th of February supported this proposal. I hope members will agree with us in relation to the importance and the justification of this proposal so that we can continue with our firefighting capabilities. Thank you. 6 members would like to ask questions. Chen Ming-Kwong, Wu Ying-Peng, Kwok Fu-Yung, Chen Yung, Kingsley Wong, and Sunny Tang. 4 minutes each, covering both Q&A. I'll invite members to be time conscious, make sure that you have sufficient time for the administration to give you a reply. Thank you. Chen Ming-Kwong, for NT-South we have got changes in the population, and there is an increase in the workload. So I support making permanent the time-limited posts as mentioned in the paper. I got this question for Anti-South Command. All the fire prevention measures fall within the portfolio of this post holder. So I want to know how he will coordinate the firefighting and fire prevention measures and make sure that you have a risk-based approach, and we must have a higher level of consciousness of fire prevention so that all the fire risks will be suppressed. And then for high-rise firefighting, it is a challenge for all firefighters globally. In paragraph 27, it is said that this post holder also chairs the dedicated departmental low altitude economy steering committee, so it is responsible for reviewing the application of UAS in firefighting and rescue operations. So for smart technologies and for UAS in firefighting, can you tell us about the status? And what about the post holder, how he or she will be innovative in ensuring interdepartmental cooperation to make sure that UAS will be deployed in firefighting and rescue operators, as well as high-rise buildings fires, so as to ensure that lives are saved and protected. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Undersecretary, thank you, member, for your support. Fire prevention is definitely one of the key tasks of Chief Fire Officer. In relation to anti-South, there are older districts including Kwaichong, Chinwan. There are old buildings in these areas. As for the enhancement of fire prevention, just like other commands, there are fire prevention meetings, fire prevention promotion, fire prevention carnivals, and so on. All these are public education. We also conduct inspections. First, based on the approach of risk-based, fire stations are responsible for inspections, and this is monitored by the Chief Fire Officer. As for licenses, the Chief Fire Officer works with the relevant unit in the headquarters, say UAS, as well as other systems. We are already applying these technologies in mountain rescue. We use UAS to formulate our fire prevention strategics. As for building fires, is it possible to use UAS? The FSD is working with different units in mainland China. As well as UAS manufacturers to test out different technologies. As far as we are concerned, all these are still in the pilot stage. We'll continue to work on research, since we do not want to put our firefighters at unnecessary risks. Next, Mr. Wu Yingpeng. Thank you, Chairman. I believe it is necessary to keep enhancing firefighting and emergency response capabilities. We also need to enhance cross-boundary rescue efforts. That's why I support this establishment proposal. In paragraph 21 of this information paper, the Assistant Director plays a crucial role in the coordination of strategies among the three places to effectively respond to cross-boundary emergency rescue operations. So how will the Chief Fire Officer cooperate with the three places? How will real-time information be disseminated in order to enhance efficiency? Do you have any work plan that you can share with us, Undersecretary? Thank you, member, for his views. The Chief Fire Officer assumes another role. This is a collaborative effort between Hong Kong and the Chinese mainland. This post holder also serves in a strategic command role. As we can see across the three places, there is equipment that is applicable to all three places. The three places can provide operational assistance or equipment, including firefighters. We have already practiced drills, for example, flooding, food discharge, mountain rescue, and so on. Each of us can use our own systems and equipment to handle these operations. There are a total of 8 fire engines which will complete the dual plate registration soon. From the Chinese mainland, there are 2 that have already completed the registration. And we will also explore collaboration when it comes to putting out fire. This is a more dynamic effort, and the fire scenes are always subject to changes. During the operation, we need to work with different units. Firefighting plan, operation, coordination, all these take time. This is one of our development directions. Thank you. Next, Ms. Kwok Fu-yong. Thank you. I personally support this establishment proposal, but I'd like to ask more about the function, and I'd like to ask about the illegal operation when it comes to gassing up vehicles. Recently, we have seen illegal operations in Changsha-Wan. There were 2 fires in Changsha-Wan in relation to the smuggling of illicit fuel and illegal fueling stations. This is indeed a huge risk to members of the public. These unlawful groups started from the new territories, but they have already made their way to the urban areas in Hong Kong. They have kept changing their stations, their venues, which have made enforcement actions difficult. Is it possible to strengthen enforcement in this regard? For this post holder, how will he or she lead cross-departmental collaboration, intelligence exchange, and so on? When it comes to new technologies, will they be deployed to tackle mobile illicit fuel, illegal fueling stations? Undersecretary, thank you. Illicit fuel is really an important, we attach importance to. It creates fire hazards, and it also leads to revenue forgone in relation to tax. That's why, from the FSD, we take law enforcement action when it comes to fire hazards, but the police and the CNED are also responsible for tackling these illicit operations. The FSD is responsible for putting out fire, and I will ask my colleague to give you more information in relation to the division of work in this regard. Thank you. Regarding efforts to combat illicit fuel and illegal fueling stations, we have relevant units responsible for this. We are seeing fragmentation of illicit fuel, and we have also seen an increase in the number of such activities. We have already strengthened our law enforcement actions. We are teaming up with the CNED and the police. We have also contacted some fuel companies to get a better understanding of the source of such illicit fuel. On the mobile apps, we have added a function for members of the public to report illicit fuel. Members of the public can take videos, can take pictures, and then they can make such complaints through the app, and then we will follow up on the complaints. We have also deployed UAS to help with our operation. Members of the public can use the fire hazard electronic complaint portal to report such cases. Next, Mr. Kingsley Wong. Thank you, Chairman. I support the making permanent of the post concern. In paragraph 20 or 21, it is said that the Chief Fire Officer plays a crucial role in the coordination of strategies among the three places. And there will be coordination on matters related to cross-boundary firefighting, such as legal frameworks, equipment standards, and firefighting strategies. When it comes to different equipment standards, how can we ensure when equipment is brought across the boundary to Hong Kong? How can we ensure the compatibility of the standards? We need to align mainland standards and those in Hong Kong. We need to make sure they are compatible. Next question is on the use of innovation technologies. In Shenzhen, in 2025, there was a drill. Apart from UAS, robots were also used to conduct search and rescue operations within the buildings. From my perspective, Hong Kong is more cautious, but at the same time, Hong Kong is being more conservative. Have you sent any officers to Shenzhen to draw reference from their practice? Have you conducted any visits to Shenzhen? Probably you don't need to send firefighters to the fire scene. You could have sent robots. If they are suitable for Hong Kong, we can introduce such technologies to Hong Kong as soon as possible. This will reduce fire risks posed to firefighters. It's about compatibility of standards, equipment, and the manpower. We need to work together with the mainland as well as Macau, not just between Shenzhen and Hong Kong. Indeed, every unit has their own very mature firefighting technologies and strategies. Indeed, we need to collaborate and communicate with the three places. Someone said probably Putonghua is actually a language barrier. No, that is not the case. It's not a language barrier. Fire engines cannot be moved as the cables and the hoses have already been connected. What about the firefighters' oxygen cylinders? We need to depend on the person in charge at scene. That's why we want to have a chief fire officer who will be giving commands at the scene. We use detection robots. We also use different robots to put out fire. Firefighters are very courageous. When everyone else goes out of the fire scene, actually firefighters instead go inside the fire scene to rescue victims. Actually, in Hong Kong, there was a case in which we used a firefighting robot to put out fire in relation to a high voltage cable in Yuen Long. But at present, there is no such technology to allow robots to operate in a fire scene as hot as 400 degrees Celsius. It is common to see very hot temperature at the fire scene. As far as we understand today, all over the world, there is no one single firefighting team that is deploying UAS to put out fire. Of course, UAS can be deployed to identify the source of heat or the fire. And I believe as time goes on, technologies can resolve these difficulties. Not just the assistant director, but the director of fire services is also handling this matter. And this is also one of the most important tasks of the director of fire services, Mr. Sunny Tan.
Thank you, Chair. If I may follow up on what Ms. Kwok has said, that's in relation to the illegal filling stations. I would like to praise the FSD because I witnessed the operation of an illegal filling station. I alerted the administration, and in a few hours' time, it was cracked down. So I praise the administration for its high efficiency, and I fully support the proposal in this paper that is making a time-limited post permanent. Just now, members talked about cross-boundary collaboration and the deployment of technology. Well, I think such aspects were not did not emerge when the time limit post was first created. So I just wonder if it implies changes under this post holder, because when there are new developments, you may need other types of manpower to render support. Mr. Chair, thank you, Chair. For this post, other than having this directorate post, we have only created another non-directorate post to support him, because at his office requires support. Otherwise, we've got the existing establishment. Originally, the NT command is such that we have got two deputy chief fire officers taking care of the two commands of the new territories. Currently, we would like to have a CFO for NT South. And then for cross-boundary collaboration and for LAE as well as the new technologies, we are not trying to create more posts to take care of such. Two more members would like to speak. If no other members would like to speak, then after Mr. Chen Yong has spoken, I'll put the matter to the vote. So members, please note this. Next, Ms. Nishi Lam. Thank you, Chair. I'm in support of this paper, that is turning the time-limited post into a permanent post. I used to live in NT South. I can see for myself that population rising rapidly, and the town was or has been developing rapidly. I just wondered why in the first place it wasn't made a permanent post, so that you need to come here to ask for it to be made permanent. I can foresee that the population will just grow and grow. So do you expect to come around soon and ask for more posts to be created? So please comment on the manpower planning. Thank you. Under Secretary. Back in the old days, we were at first given approval to create a permanent post internally, but then later on, as a result of the financial considerations, all newly created posts at that time were time limited. At that time, we were given 5 years, and that's why we have to come back now. Well, I think the Northern Metropolis will be one of the main engines driving our growth of Hong Kong. And in fact, we have got a specific officer taking care of the implications on our work arising from the development of the NM. Now, at this moment, as far as high-level command is concerned, I think it is about right for the time being. When it comes to the operational level, we need to have more manpower, and then we need to build fire stations as well as ambulance depots to tie in with the developments of the new territories. We'll be watching it in due course. Next, Mr. Brave Chen. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Check. you have my support because we have got the Northern Metropolis and other new development areas. If I may turn to the table in the paper, I see many departments are trying to replace manpower with technology. From 2023 to 2026, I think the total number of from 2023 to 2025, you have seen a decrease in the number of officers involved. But this year, you're going to increase the establishment. So please justify why there is a need to do so. I'm sure the public would appreciate that. I know you have already signed a collaboration, or rather a cooperation framework for cross-boundary cooperation. It's been so for 2 years. I think we need to have more drills. I think each place has got its own advantages. Hong Kong has got its own advantages, and then for the mainland, they have a lot of high technology, new technology. They can even have martial arts robots. For the national games, I think we have witnessed a very successful deployment of robotics. There is contactless immigration clearance. So make sure that the officer involved will take a huge interest in the deployment of technology. So you're also concerned about cross-boundary support. Thank you, Chair. For cross-boundary collaboration, we have got a standing arrangement. Yearly, we have a drill covering all the 3 places. And then when it comes to training, Mr. Chen is right. We can learn from each other among the 3 places, and we have our role to contribute. We have been providing training to the officers in the 3 places when it comes to pyrotechnics and fireworks. So whatever that can help us to raise our efficiency and whatever we can deploy to enhance the safety of our colleagues will do so. Thank you. All right. If members haven't got other questions, I will put this matter to the vote. Now, for those who are in favor of the proposal in paper EC 2025-26, a show of hands, please. Thank you. Those who are against, a show of hands, please. Nobody. I'm of the view that the majority of members who voted are in support of this proposal, so the proposal has been carried. As to the FC should have a further discussion of this item in accordance with paragraph 40A of the ESC procedure. I would like to put the following question to you. This subcommittee advises the Finance Committee to have a further discussion of the paper EC 2025-26-16 and the proposal therein, which has been endorsed by this subcommittee. I'd like to remind members that if the question is carried, it means that the subcommittee would like the FC to have further discussion of this paper. If negatived, it means that we do not advise the FC to have a further discussion of this paper. So for members who are in favor of this proposal, a show of hands, please. Those who are against, members, a show of hands, please. I believe that the majority of members who voted are against this question, so the question has been negatived. So we do not propose the FC to have a further discussion of this paper 2025-26-15. For this meeting, it has come to an end, and the next meeting will be held on the 29th of April 2026, 8:30 a.m. Please attend that meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you.